That was great timing, that, Kevin. Great timing. Everyone, hello, we're back. Welcome to the United Road, and I'm joined by two lovely Irish fellas and Jonathan. But yeah, you know what we're all here for? We're all here to chat United, chat the FA Cup final, chat Ten Hag, chat Rashford. That is the order for tonight's show. We're going to have a lovely chat. We're going to hope that United win on Saturday at 3 p.m.
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. You messed me up there. It is Saturday, isn't it? And yeah, so let's talk. Dara, go on. I'm just going to start with you because you're to the right of me. What we thinking? Go on, tell me your thoughts. I was on Manchester last night, and among the room of City and United fans, it was definitely the City fans that were a lot more confident. Is that your thoughts? Do you echo
that? I mean, going off 2 wins off the bounce, we should be a bit more confident. Are we going to be more confident? I don't think so. Like, you could try and set up so many different ways against City, and it was, let's be honest, it was just our momentum and grace of God of a miracle that we won 2-1 last season in the way that Ten Hag set up with Malacia left back, shots at the back. Of course, them two are never going to be seen on Saturday. Expectations, just give the ball to Highland at this point. The boy can, if he's actually given the service, we might stand a chance. Who knows? I genuinely want to think if this team can gel together for one game and actually complement each other in some shape or form, we might get something out of it. But that's hopeful thinking, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think I hate this sort of negative outlook, but it's really hard to look any other way, isn't it? When City have been so good and United have not been, I suppose. I mean, I know obviously we won 3-2 against Newcastle, 2-0 win against Brighton. I actually missed the Brighton game because it wasn't on the telly in the UK, which is brilliant. But from what people who did see, and I'm probably speaking more abroad fans because I know it's on the TV a lot easier for a lot of people abroad and I follow a lot of people on Twitter. But from what I gathered, it wasn't and we only watch legitimate streams over here on this show. But I don't particularly think that. I'm not confident, put it that way. I'm not confident, and I don't think there's many United fans that are. But from what I gathered on Twitter, and trust me, taking opinions from Twitter is something that I try not to do a lot of the time. But it didn't seem like we played great for the first. Well, when did we score our first goal? 73 minutes.
Yeah,
first 60. We really weren't brilliant. We were allowing Everton. We were allowing Brighton to play really well and sort of dominate us. Now, I can't really speak for myself because I didn't see it, but I imagine Kevin, Jonathan, I imagine one of you did see it. What did you make of the game, and did it fill you with any more confidence going into the FA Cup final?
It was a bit of a smash and grab.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it, really.
Yeah, it was. The Brighton should have been 3 or 4 up at half time. Like let's be honest, and it was. They were missing a good few players with injury as well. They've been missing players all season. To be fair to them, I think their Europa League campaign has kind of taken its toll on them this season. But even at that, they were knocking the ball about, making our midfield look very pedestrian, and it was the epitome of a smash and grab. But the season we've had, the form we've had recently against Brighton, it felt good to get the victory in those sort of circumstances, because this season those are the sort of games we've been losing 3 and 4 now. Just look at Palace a few weeks ago. So it won't do any harm to build a little bit of confidence going into the FA Cup final on Saturday. I've seen a few of the training picks going around today, and it seems like we've got pretty much a full squad to pick from. I think even Anthony Martial is back training. Whether he makes the 23 is another thing. But yeah, look, I mean, you said there you don't want to have a negative approach, but I don't think it's negative. I think it's just been realistic when you look at where the two clubs are at the minute. I mean, City are, I know even with the 115 charges hanging over them, they are probably the best team in Europe at the minute, aside from Real Madrid, and we are one of the worst at the minute considering our status as a club. So it's just been realistic. I'm slightly more confident going into it than I was last season, funnily enough. I just feel that something has to give. I think the season has just been so bad. The rumours have been so intense about Ten Hag's future, and it would just be like them to pull a result out of the bag on Saturday and nick a 1-0 or a 2-1. And I hope it ends up like that, whether he gets sacked or not. I know we're going to discuss that in more detail, but I just have a feeling that something could potentially happen on Saturday, but I'm not confident. I think it's my heart ruling my head, to be honest.
And I'll be honest there, going back watching the final, I put myself through the torture watching it again there recently. But even looking back, you look at the 2 goals we conceded against City. They were, at bar those 2 moments, we didn't play the worst against City in the final. So to the point that if you could knock out those mistakes, could there be another smash and grab to be had really on Saturday?
We're making more mistakes. Well, we're making more mistakes. I mean, yeah, that smash and grab. I think we cleared the ball off the line 3 times. They missed. Onana saved the 1-on-1. I mean, God almighty! And that was before we scored our first goal. Oh, that was horrible. So I don't have much confidence. The only good thing you can think of is it's a winning run, not a losing run. And sometimes sometimes you find a way to win. Teams that are winning find a way to win, and teams that are losing always find a way to lose. But yeah, it's just I don't think so. You'd have to go in with
I love that way of describing it as well, to be fair, because if you think about it, years and years ago, United were always the team that found the way to win. And, it seems like this season in particular, it seems very specific to the fact that we've been winning so many games and we've done our absolute utmost to make sure we don't finish the game with the win. You talk about a couple of games in the Champions League. There's been, I think it was the Chelsea game that probably springs to mind the most, with us being 3-2 up with quite literally about 70 seconds left of the game.
Yeah.
And we somehow ended up losing 4-3. Obviously, really unlucky deflection, but for goodness sake, like that's the kind of luck. Well, I know luck's obviously a small part of it, but it's kind of the luck that we've had to deal with. But I mean, I think what I kind of want to do is switch it on its head, and we need to speak a little bit about Man City as well. Obviously, you've got the likes of Foden, who's just won the Player of the Year. Obviously, De Bruyne, we know how good he can be. Your Rodgers, Haaland is obviously on fire again. What do we have to do to stop these players? And is there a particular player who really, fair might be the wrong word, but is there a particular player in City's team that you really are like, we really need to be careful?
It's probably Foden, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I'd agree. Foden. Yeah, he's just so markable at the minute. He's world class, and even like as I mentioned, with the charges hanging over him and all the financial dope, and he's one player that you can't put that hang your hat on because he's homegrown. In fairness, and he's world class. He really is. He's special.
I don't think you have to worry about Haaland as much. Like he doesn't really control the game. He's there to score, and but you kind of have to worry about the rest of them because they're gonna set it up for him. It's just he's the man to tap it in.
I suppose
he's the Ruud van Nistelrooy.
I suppose you go back to I was only watching a video of it last night or the night before, and it was a case of watching back how Herrera man-marked Hazard out of the game, how Ji-sung Park man-marked Pirlo out of the game. Is there any players that we have right now that could go on a man-marking mission, basically, to stop, whether it be Foden, whether it be De Bruyne? Because I fear De Bruyne being more influential more than Haaland, if I'm honest, because I've gone on to say, without De Bruyne in the team, Haaland isn't as influential in a game. Because 9 times out of 10, it's De Bruyne pings it to Haaland at the back post. He finds a way to dink it in.
I know, but with that though, as much as that's probably right and playing slight devil's advocate, he's still been scoring without De Bruyne in the team, albeit not as many as last season. But I think that last season was just a freak of nature. You also argue as well with Pep. Every single thing that is done at City is geared for Haaland to score. I think if you were to put Haaland in United's team, you see it, and obviously Højlund and Haaland aren't the same player at the moment, I guess you could say. But I'd like to think the right service. I think if you put Højlund in City's team, I think Højlund would score 30, 40 goals. I think a lot of strikers would probably score a fair few goals. Probably not as many as Haaland, but Højlund is a very good striker, and I just think he's not had the service. And when you're scoring 16 goals, or whatever it was, off an XG of 7.5 in all competitions, I think it shows how clinical and how much he's made for himself, which is a huge thing for him. But I think if you put him in City's team, he'd be scoring bagfuls, and credit to him. And I think United need to nullify particular threats, but I also think they need to strengthen their own. So that's with the likes of Fernandes coming back. It's the likes of, as much as Rashford probably isn't in form, and I know we'll come to Rashford later, but Rashford is the kind of guy that can literally just switch in a second and go, do you know what, right, I can do this moment and I can be that world-class player. We obviously hope he does do that, but obviously he's not done it this season, but hopefully he can do. Do you think the main thing that we need to do is we need to service our striker to have any hope of beating City?
Yeah, I suppose.
It's
No, I was going to say it's the fact that you look at the statistics when he does get the service, he's clinical in Highlands, but then you look at the chances created by Fernandes, and there's not a whole lot to do with Highland there, and like the chances that are created are not for Highland. So I suppose if it's a case of kind of like KDB to Haaland, make a Fernandes to Highland, see how clinical he is then after, because like the way that Fernandes goes about creating chances, it should be man-made for someone like Highland when you get the ball to his feet.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, what were you going to say, mate? Sorry.
Well, we're not going to have the ball that much, are we? When we do have the ball, we barely get any chances for him, and we're not going to have the ball on Saturday. That's going to be a huge issue. The other, I wonder, the formation. We'd have to play 5 at the back, wouldn't we? But we don't have 5 players to play at the back, which is a huge issue. Like, we do not have 5 players. Really.
That is such a sad thing to say, isn't it?
Oh,
and like,
it is sad, but it is true, unfortunately.
And I'll be honest, if we still weren't in our absolutely dire left back situation, I would really advocate the idea of play a back 3, have Shaw your left centre back, and then have someone operate at left back. But unfortunately, that is not the case right now.
It doesn't seem to. I mean, I know he's been included in the England squad, but it still seems like Shaw's quite a long way off being fit as well.
Yeah,
I'm very surprised that he's been included. I mean, unless it's something we don't know, but I'm very surprised he's even being included in the England squad. So I'm surprised by that. And if you can't even make a squad for the final, when we've obviously said there's a setback, whether it's 10 hour played a mind game or something, but if you can't even make a squad for a final, how can you make an England squad in that starts less than 2.5 weeks later? Is it? I think it starts
about that. Yeah.
It seems quite strange to me, but I mean, in terms of the City game, obviously, we've got some serious threats from their side, but talk to me about United's threats. Like, who would you expect to be able to actually turn the game on its head and go, do you know what, I'm going to win this trophy for Man United?
I think someone like Garnacho. I mean, it's one of them games where I think fans aren't going to mind United sitting back and being a bit more defensively solid and hitting them on the break. And that's traditionally where we've gotten a lot of our success over the last few years against Pep and against Man City is on the break. And we've got players that can hurt them on the break. We do. We've got players like Rashford, who has a very good goal scoring record against City. We've got Garnacho, who has got pace to burn. Ahmad has got some serious pace. Højlund has got unbelievable pace and strength. I think it could be a game really tailor-made for him. Whether he's left on the bench again and comes on like he has done the last 2 games and scored, it's worked quite well. It'll be interesting to see what way Ten Hag looks at it that way. But we've got some very good, strong runners that can hit them on the break and hurt them on the break. The problem is what we've alluded to is that they're going to have most of the possession, probably about 70% of it. And it's if we can nullify them with that 70% possession, get the ball back in the right areas and hurt them on the break. But time will tell on Saturday to see. But I think the crucial thing is just not to concede an early goal like we did last season. And we've got to frustrate them, and we've got to keep ourselves in the game, keep the fans in the game as well, keep them behind the team. And if we keep them 0-0 till halftime, I think anything can happen, because at the end of the day, it is a cup final.
Yeah, there was a fella at the radio show last night who said if United make it to 0-0 15 seconds in, it'll be a success.
Yeah,
last year, which I thought was quite funny. Jonathan, you alluded to a couple of players there. Then who would your front 3 be?
I probably would start Højlund. I think Fernandes as a false 9 has somewhat worked, kind of linking in with McTominay. But I think for the City game, I'd like to have that power run and the strength of Højlund. I'd like to have that out ball, because we're not going to have a lot of possession. It's to have that target man, someone that can run in behind. I would start Højlund. I I would probably start Ahmad on the right and I would start Rashford on the left. I think Garnacho has looked like he's run out of a bit of steam the last few games. I think 37 consecutive starts. So I think he could play a bigger role as an impact sub on Saturday. If we're still in the game, if we're looking for a goal to equalise, or if it's 0-0, 1-1, and we're trying to nick the game, I think he could have a bigger impact than he has done recently starting.
I absolutely agree with that. I actually thought you were going to go with Garnacho on the left and the other way around and bring Rashford on. But I actually think in a game like this, you kind of have to start Rashford. And I think Ahmad has played his way into the final team. Højlund, I think Bruno operates at his best when he's in the midfield, feeding the balls into the wingers and to the forward. You know, so you have to play Bruno in his best position. Ahmad's played his way in. I think Garnacho, as great as he's been, I think he's genuinely just looked shot. And I think even just this week off has probably done him some good from the last game. And I mean, Højlund speaks for himself, doesn't it? But Kevin, Dara, would you agree with that front three?
I'll be honest, I would, only because of the fact that Garnacho has been playing the amount of games he has consecutively. It's hard to say. I suppose going on the whole Bruno scenario, as much as I appreciate the fact he's been able to drop back and show his defensive work rate, this is not a game for him to be dropping back deep to.
He's going to do it anyway, though, isn't he? It's the way Bruno is. He wants the ball constantly, and when he's not getting it, he'll go get it. And
that's the problem, I suppose. If you have someone like Klopp, now the problem is we'll work our way back into the midfield eventually when we're talking as we go on. But with the midfield, if you have someone like Kobe Mainoo can compose on the ball, who the hell do you put next to him? Do you put Casemiro? Do you put McTominay? Because you need someone to ping that ball to Bruno when you have the possession. Because if you tell him, right, stay forward, stay up with the boys, play the second striker role like you used to under Ollie, basically, and don't show your defensive work rate. Like, come back the odd time, but don't come back all the time. Show you can still do your defensive work rate, but primarily stay up, stay forward, be ready to press that ball into Højlund or to Garnacho, Ahmad, whoever's on the wings at the time. Because right now, we need someone who will spring the ball up to Bruno. He'll lay off that pass to whoever is available at the time. It's what he done best before, or basically before Ollie got sacked and Rangnick came in, where he was actually able to show, being that second striker, he's actually able to play in possession. He's more effective, I think, as the second striker role rather than dropping deep and everything. So for me, if he's pinging the passes along, playing that second striker role, even, would you be against the idea of a false nine as well, Callum? What do you think?
I think it's got to be a front three, hasn't it? I mean, I suppose you could play that kind of false nine later on in the game if things aren't working out. But I just think naturally you can have your two wingers. I mean, this is why I think you're probably right, Jonathan, in terms of Rashford having to start, because I think naturally they'll be the natural wingers to play, and Højlund will be up front. So as much as there's a false nine option there, I think the false nine option is only there when you don't have your fit striker. So you can kind of understand it, but when your striker's fit, you have to play that way. You could always use it as a case. I mean, like you said before, Martial might be in the squad, so you never know if he'll even play and he'll even use the. Anyway, you might not even think of the false nine option because he might bring it Martial, and he's always been okay against City, I think, Martial as well. Yeah. So, but Kev, what do you think about the front three, or will it be a front three at all? Do you agree with the two lads there, or?
I mean, I think we have to go with front three. The false nine is a formation you play when you don't have a fit striker. It really is. Well, for Manchester United anyway, it is. Front three, I would go with Rashford, Højlund, and I think whatever Garnacho has, I think we have to score first if we're going to win this game. If we go 1-0 down, I don't see us coming back from it. Garnacho's a bit quicker than Ahmad. Ahmad isn't actually that quick for a counter attack. I remember under Solskjaer we used to win a few of these, and he used to play Daniel James up front, almost on like that kind of formation. And City are one of those teams, a lot like Arsenal, who play their centre backs on the halfway line pretty much. So there's quite a big bit of space, but we have to score first if we're going to win. I don't see us coming back. And Garnacho, although he's looked burnt out, if we can even get an hour out of him, I'd be happy enough with that.
Do you know what? I slightly disagree with that. I actually think United have looked. I think United, maybe I'm speaking more historically now, but I think United have probably done better when they've gone behind and they've fought for the win. I think, especially this season,
we might play better, but I don't think we'll have enough to win the game if we go behind. We might play better, but this will have to be a smash and grab again.
It probably
don't think
was.
many
Yes, Rashford did that wonder goal, and then obviously it all capitulated, didn't it? But obviously, in terms of the final, I think just to finish up on the FA Cup final, lads, what are your predictions?
2-1 United. I'll be the baldy one.
Honest predictions or your heart predictions?
Plus 2 City in some way, whatever it is. I think City will beat us by 2.
You think City will beat us by 2? Go on, Jonathan.
I think 2-1 United. I think Rashford will come out with a bit of fire in his belly after that England squad omission, and he'll have a point to prove. I think a Rashford brace on Saturday 2-1.
Oh, I think
if we were to win this week, it'd be just if we were to win this one, you'd think I would have loved to win last year's one and stop them getting the damn treble.
Yeah,
I know.
That's like great. Yeah, I'd have rather have won last year's than this year's, to be honest, to stop the treble. But look, I don't know if you've seen the 99 documentary, but that is how you win a treble, not the way they did it.
Yeah.
I actually think it's going to be 4-2. I just don't know who to.
A very big score line there.
I think it's going to. I mean, United this season have conceded so many shots. It's unbelievable. So I think City will naturally score a couple just because of how much they'll pepper the goal. But I actually think City will go for it. So I think it'll leave the space for United to go in behind. So I can see United scoring a couple as well. I just don't know who will get those extra 2 to make it 4. So I think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be a very good game. I don't think United will have a lot of the ball because naturally you probably tend not to anyway against City. But I think it'll be. Maybe this is just me being optimistic for a change, but I think it'll be better than we're all fearing. So let's see. But moving on from the dreaded FA Cup final, there's been some news from DiMarzio today. Now I know DiMarzio's been right quite a lot in the past. Now Dale O'Donnell tweeted this today, and I tend to agree with him, but I find it quite strange that the new ownership has been so tight-lipped on Ten Hag's future, and 3 days before an FA Cup final, it's leaked to the press that he's going to be going after the final. So I think it's worth mentioning that this needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. However, DiMarzio has come out and said that he will be leaving, whether he'll be sacked or whether he'll leave off his own accord. But Ten Hag will be leaving after the final. Who we getting, I don't know. I don't think that's worth even a debate at this moment. But Dara, I'm going to start with you again. But is Ten Hag finished after this final, regardless of the result?
I want to, myself and Johnson have had our disagreements on the whole Ten Hag in, Ten Hag out. I still have the opinion that he should get the summer transfer window at the very least under Ineos, get them to work with the structure. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Look, fair enough. I'm willing to go out my sword and say I'll keep Ten Hag. I'm not going to disagree if he goes. That's the thing, though. I'm not going to be one of those who will say, fuck Ineos, fuck whoever, if it's a case of they decide to get rid of him. Because in my heart of hearts, I know he's a good manager. Because, let's be honest, there was talk of Bayern, then again, Bayern are going in for absolutely anyone now, the way they're going about this. But in my heart of hearts, I know he's a good manager. He didn't get, let's be honest, when you're the Manchester United manager, you're not going to get the fair share of the stick from the media anyway. So you could throw Pep, I've always gone on to say, you could throw Pep into the current system right now at United before Ineos came into power, and he would have absolutely failed with Manchester United right in the way to set up. And I will stand on that, but the problem is that you said there who you get in. I suppose you look at Poch after leaving by mutual agreement from Chelsea. Everyone's going to link us with him. You have De Zerbi, who they're talking about going to Chelsea, and then there's talk of Kieran McKenna, and I like Kieran McKenna, but the problem is it's another case of running before you can walk. I feel he should definitely stick it out. Like, this is my personal opinion anyway. I think he should stick it out with Ipswich for the season, see how he fares with the team that he's brought up from League One into the Premier League. And after that, if he's able to hold his own in the Premier League, then by all means, give him a run. But I don't think we should. And don't get me wrong, I've seen what McKenna's done. I think it's a fantastic job what he's after doing. Is it too soon for him though? Because as I said on a group chat there only last night when McKenna's name was mentioned, this is going to be a case of, how would I word it? It was a case of within 18 months, the media and the fan base will once again turn on another manager because of high expectations. And he's going to be seen as the darling. He's going to be seen as the media's fan favourite right now. If he is announced the Manchester United manager in the next 4 to 6 weeks, I'll just say give it 18 months. The turn will tide on him like every other manager has. And even under a new structure with Ineos, I still feel the fans will turn on him and the media will turn on him.
Do you know something with Ten Hag? I was on Paddock after the Coventry game, and maybe it was reactionary, I don't know, but because I'll never have a call for a manager's head, but being 3-0 down to being 3-0 up and allowing it to become 3-3 against a team in the division below you was something that, regardless of injuries and regardless of what happens on the pitch, I just think it was almost to a point where it was a little bit unforgivable. And it was embarrassing a little bit. And the way we probably played probably allowed them back in. And I said on the show, I was a bit like, do you know what? For the first time, I actually think maybe he should go. Because it's not as if the performances back it up. And it's not as, and some of these issues that we're seeing week in, week out are tactical. And they are fixable, and they don't seem to be being fixed by the people that should be fixing them. And I understand some of the players probably aren't good enough and all that, but then a week will pass and I'm like, well, do you know what? The players that he signed, he probably didn't want Casemiro originally. He certainly wouldn't have wanted a 36-year-old Johnny Evans as good as he has done. So I'm like, do we give him the summer where we take the transfer and recruitment away from him, give him the summer and allow him to operate as a coach underneath a football structure and see how we do? So every now and then I'm like, he should probably go because he's just not good enough this season. But then on the other hand, I'm like, maybe he is just worth... Because the thing is as well with Ten Hag is he's got a season left on his contract. So then it maybe does just come to a natural end. And it also doesn't... Because if in Ineos do sack him and they get this first manager appointment wrong, Ineos will be turned on immediately because they got it wrong, just like Woodward got it wrong, just like Arnold and Murto got it wrong. And I think Ineos won't want to run that risk. I do wonder. So, and also there's the added extra of who do we bring in? Now, Jonathan, what are your thoughts? And do you think... I don't think Ineos will base him staying off if we win an FA Cup, by the way. No. I think either already made the mind up and they know who they want, or he was always staying if we win the FA Cup, because it's not, you shouldn't be basing decisions like this on one-off cup games, because United could go beat, this could be clipped up, but Man United could go beat City 7-0 if something incredibly mental happened.
Yeah.
You know, and just an absolute fluke and something genuinely crazy could happen. I'm not saying that'll happen for the life of me, but they could do that. And Ten Hag all of a sudden is the best thing in the world. It's, you know, it needs to be judged off the season. It needs to be judged on injuries. It needs to be judged on the fact that the takeover was happening. You know, Ronaldo situation, Sancho being a clown. All these things need to be took into consideration. The players as well need to be taken into consideration. Fan mood, performances, tactical performances, all that needs to be taken into. So there's a lot for Ineos to consider, and I just wonder if Ten Hag can go, well, look, I deserve my final year to prove you wrong. But Jonathan, what do you think?
I don't think Ineos can take no action this summer. I think they've got to either back him or sack him. They've got to either give him a new contract and say, you're the man, we're backing you now, we're giving you authority, the players will respect you, we're giving you a new 2.5, 3-year contract, whatever it is, or they've got to sack him. They can't.
Can I jump in there then? Do they give a contract immediately and come out already? Should they have come out already and backed him?
Yeah, potentially so. Yeah, potentially so. I think so.
Do you think the fact that they haven't means mind's made up? We think he's going.
Yeah, I think the decision has been made. I think he was definitely on audition. I heard a lot of people label it as an interim manager, and that's essentially what he was when Ineos took over officially in February. But obviously, we all know they're there since Christmas Eve last year. But he was effectively on trial for his job then, and I think we all thought when we went out of Europe all together, we might see an improvement in performances because he had a week on week with the players on the training ground, which we were all calling for. He didn't have that last season, in fairness to him, one of the most hectic seasons we've ever seen in United history. But there just hasn't been enough. And like that, I can tolerate results. I don't like losing. I can take losing if I'm seeing something on the pitch that I can buy into. I can see structure.
Yeah, it's how we've lost.
That's the thing. It's looking at games like the Palace game. Like, I don't care how many players Manchester United have injured. If you're turning up and performing like that at Crystal Palace and losing 4-0 and just throwing in the towel, there's something inherently wrong there. And I know it's not just Ten Hag. I understand that there's years of Glazer decay. The club is rotten. The player mentality is on the floor. It's not just Ten Hag. But you can't. We've had this point before. You can't sack a squad of players. It's just not possible. Players wouldn't be moved on. They'll be sold, and rightly so. And I think by the time we get back to winning Premier Leagues, 99% of this squad won't be there. You'll be dealing with a very, very, very small fraction of it. But my gut is he'll go. He's gone. I think the decision has been made, and I think that's why there's been nothing from Ineos up until this point. I certainly hope, if the rumors are true, that he's gone and the decision has been made to sack him, that they do it a bit more class than what they did with Van Gaal, especially if he does manage to win the FA Cup on Saturday, because I had kind of lost faith in Van Gaal. He really did divide opinion, but the way he was sacked was disgraceful. It was disgraceful, and it perfectly summed up Ed Woodward under the Glazers, just absolute tactless and classless. So if it is the end of Ten Hag, I hope they do it right. My gut is it is the end of Ten Hag, and I think the Pochettino one is one to watch, certainly. I think he's one that you could see definitely come in there to replace him. I know he divides opinion. He's been seen as a bottle job because of what he did at Spurs, could never win a trophy, struggled with a PSG team full of the world's best players. But I just think there's something there. I've always wanted him as a Man United manager. Personally, it could fail miserably, but it's just something I think Ineos will be looking at carefully there, and I think there's a reason why he walked out with Chelsea. I just think it's a strange one. It's very, very strange that he just walked when they actually looked like they were onto something. Like, I was looking at Chelsea thinking these guys are going to click onto something next season because they looked really good. But a very strange one. But I think Pochettino was definitely one to watch.
I know David Ornstein said as well, didn't he, that Pochettino could potentially be one to watch. I actually think with a good structure above him, Pochettino could be okay. I think he doesn't put fear into me like he does with the likes of maybe a Southgate. Because Southgate.
Give me Poch every day of the week over Southgate, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I'd honestly give the grass on the floor outside over Southgate. Kev, what do you think?
Do you know what? When the new owners come in, they usually get rid of the manager and bring in their guy, don't they? I mean, that's what happens 90% of the time. Ten Hag has been. I've wanted him gone for a long time now. I think about a month ago now, I'd say it was Jamie Carragher, who usually I would say piss off to, but he did a good review on Man United's coaching, and it is horrible.
Very good, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was. It is absolutely awful. So, the signings have been absolutely dreadful. When you're a manager and you sign a guy and he turns out to be poor, like Anthony, you have to take the brunt force of that and say, okay, he was terrible. But if you sign a guy and he's been injured for the whole season, you equally have to take the brunt force of it, I think. I mean, the best ability is availability, and he's bringing in guys who are never available. His coaching's terrible. We play almost a 4-0-6 half press formation, which is God almighty. I mean, you beat the first press, and you see the Palace game, like, you'd beat the first press, and Olise would have 50 yards of green grass and straight to run through. the guy to come in, not Southgate, hopefully. I mean, anyone with that, but I think like we have to maybe even Ineos have made their minds up on the guy already. But so it Poch mightn't even be on the cards. They might have made up their mind about the guy. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. We'll have to wait till the end of the season. And Man United we're not the only club. For a few of the seasons we have been now, but this season we're not the only big club who's looking for a new manager. Chelsea are looking for a guy. Bayern are looking for a guy. And Barcelona or no? Did Xavi say he's going to stay or?
Oh, I've heard that. I've heard he's meant to stay, and then I've heard that Barca are still going to sack him. And I've heard so many different things now.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is now, but potentially Barcelona as well are looking for a guy. Those three are clubs that if you're a manager, you're looking at and thinking, wow, that might be a nicer place to go than United. But on a good side for a manager to go to Man United at this stage, I think I've seen certainly from personal point of view is not many Man United fans are expecting a manager to come in and win the Premier League and win and win and win. I think what we really want to see is just good football for like a while, just to not wake up on a Monday morning just like, oh, another one of those weekends. Just something. We just want something. We're going to have less games next season. So whatever manager comes in, I think they'll have a nicer time from the United fans. As long even if the results are, or even if the points on the table, the position isn't much higher, but as long as the football is better and we're actually scoring and not being beaten around the place.
Although
I guess you'd use the term Ollie smiles on faces, honestly.
Honestly, I will take the fact that Jim Ratcliffe has come out and like it's been well quoted now that he's basically inadvertently said, long story short, because the Glazers haven't put a proper football structure in place, the coaches that have come in haven't had a fair share of the goal. So under a proper structure, a proper manager might actually do something better. So is that a cryptic message to say Ten Hag is possibly staying? No, whether I made my point already where I've said I'm happy to see Ten Hag stay, but I'm also will be happy depending on who comes in to see him go. So it's kind of that 50-50. Like if you're talking about potentially keeping a manager in place, you kind of have to show some backing of some sort, or whether that was his cryptic message to show some backing, it probably wasn't the best way to go about it. But if it's that little cryptic message to say, okay, we might actually keep hold of our current manager because he's going to have a proper structure over him from here on in, then I'm kind of on the defense of I might be willing to keep Ten Hag just to see how he fares under this structure more than anything.
I think you might be right. I think the thing is you're naturally going to look into every comment made as well. I also want to say as well, though, Kev, I think it's really harsh. I think with hindsight, we look with the Mount transfer and think, God, that's been a disaster because we could have got him for free. The thing is, though, Mount has never really had a history with injuries, especially similar to what he's had at United this season. His time at Chelsea, I think he was very minimally impacted with injuries, seriously minimally impacted. And he's come to United. I think in his one season with United, he's been injured more than he ever was at his entire time at Chelsea. So I think it's really hard to judge that, and I don't think anybody could have known that. I still think it was probably silly spending 60 million, but you've also got to bear in mind, people saying as well, oh, we should have just waited and got him for free. We wouldn't have got him because he would have gone to Arsenal or Liverpool, I think. They both wanted him as well. So I think it's harsh, the Mount thing. Anthony, I will always have a big issue with, because I don't like being that guy, but I really struggle to understand how anybody looked at him and thought he was worth £20 million, not 86.
Now, I suppose, Callum, can I make a point there as well? You were on about how Mount is minimally injured at Chelsea. We've kind of signed him off the back of his longest spell injured at Chelsea. And I suppose this kind of goes down to the medical department again, where you kind of have to look at how we've worked the medical department, especially with the way our injuries have been this season. And you go through the fact that he done his medical, he passed his medical, and going off, I suppose this could be a part of the Chelsea medical team and the Man United medical team. How was it not treated better at Chelsea? How was he allowed to come in through the medical with flying colours to sign for Manchester United in the first place?
To then be injured effectively most of the season. Yeah,
exactly.
It's very questionable, isn't it? I think.
What is medical? What is passing a medical? I mean, Owen Hargreaves passed a medical at Manchester City to sign when he was to get a contract there. I mean, a medical is they measure to see if you have.
I think Owen Hargreaves was on a pay-as-you-play contract at Man City, so I think that was different. He was only literally getting paid every time he played. I think he ended up playing something like 4 or 5 games for them as well as he was a pay-as-you-play, so it would have been slightly different, the stringency of his medical. But yeah, no, I do see your point.
Yeah, I get that. I think just with the Mount one, I think it is particularly. I don't think you can put it on Ten Hag because I think there were so many suitors for him. Because at the end of the day, Mason Mount is a very good player. Mm-hmm. I just think if he was worth, if we'd have spent 35 million quid with a year left of his contract, fine. But you've also got to remember, the English tax and all that, Man United as well. I think so. I don't really write Mount off. I think Mount would be a good. I still think he'll be a good signing for us. I think he'll be very useful in the coming years. Anthony, I think that was really just a massive, negative mark on Ten Hag. And a little bit of me does feel for him on that side because United did say, like, look, he's worth 25 million, and they dragged the fee, and we ended up paying 86. It's typical of United's recruitment. I personally, I don't think we should have even paid 25 million. I think he was probably suited maybe to Ajax a lot more. I don't see him probably better than. I don't even think he was better than Dan James, but I think Dan James offered more to us. So, but yeah, I just don't think footballing wise, Anthony's been anywhere near good enough.
At least Dan James would actually attack a defender.
Well, yeah, I just think in terms of his feet, in terms of his performances, in terms of his footballing ability, I think Anthony has been a massive failing and has probably epitomised the recruitment for the last 11 years. So, and I also think as well, you've also got to bear in mind with the recruitment and his signings, I don't think Ten Hag got a lot of his first choice. And straight away I'll go Casemiro and Johnny Evans there. I also don't think there's any other team in the league, probably, or big team in the league, I should say, that allow the manager to probably just completely make the decision on the signings. The likes of City, Liverpool, probably Chelsea, they sign the players and they give the manager a veto and go yes or no. I think it hit a point in Ten Hag's first season where he kind of had to go yes to Casemiro because there was no one else, and we just lost 4-0 and 2-1, I think it was, to Brighton and Brentford. Yeah. So you can understand that as well. So this is what I mean. There's no solid answer with Ten Hag. There's no he needs to go, he needs to stay. I think that is probably an issue in itself. I think with all the camaraderie and stuff of everything else, I think it'd be harsh, but you could understand it. But if he also stayed, you could probably understand that as well. I actually think with the way United have been the past 10 years, I think there's some people probably still at United that have wanted one manager and one manager alone for many years. And I think you're right, Jonathan. I think it's Pochettino. I think the fact that he's become available, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the manager. I don't know how I feel about that. I think in terms of his man management for younger players, I think it's very good. But you could also say, has he got it on the biggest stage? Arguably, I don't know if he does. You can't judge his time at Chelsea because it's clearly a mess. I think PSG, I don't think any manager there really would be able to. And I think that it was coming off the back of the Leonardo days as well, I feel. And he was just dreadful for PSG. So you can't judge him for that. And to be honest, when he was at Tottenham, as good as he did do, he definitely should have won the league with Tottenham. So you can probably see that as a fair.
He should have been sacked. He should have been sacked from Chelsea when he said he wanted to go back to Tottenham. I mean, how unprofessional is that? He said, "I want to one day be Tottenham manager again."
Oh, geez, I didn't even hear that.
He said that at a press conference. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
mean, he should have been sacked on the back of that. Imagine the next Man United manager saying, I'm having a great time at Man United, but one day I want to manage City. I mean,
yeah,
your job beyond tenable. You should have been sacked a second. That's an unprofessional thing. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
I can see your point there, Kevin, when you consider the uproar when Lukaku made his comments about Inter when he was still at Chelsea at the time. So I can see your point there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with that as well. Not only is it unprofessional, it's almost blasphemous that at Chelsea, because Chelsea and Tottenham hate beyond belief, don't they? It's probably not quite on the same scale as Arsenal and Tottenham, but it's very much up there. I don't know the full history of the London rivalries, but it's really up there. But I just obviously been speaking quite a bit about Ten Hag, and I want to move on to Rashford, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, three Irish fellas is probably the perfect. But I suppose I didn't really want to ask an English fan this, because I think they can be sort of swayed. So I suppose asking three non-English Man United fans isn't the worst thing to do. But should Rashford have been in the England squad?
There's been better players than him this year, hasn't there? He's done a hole for himself.
Back yourself up there then, Kevin. Who's been better than him?
So how many? What is the squad? The amount of players? 26, is it?
It's currently 33, and 7 are being cut.
33 and 7. So okay. So it goes down to 20. I mean, the only other person now that got in when Rashford didn't, that I think maybe either way he might be unlucky, is Jack Grealish, who had an equal terrible season, really. I mean, he might be unlucky to get above Grealish, but they've had very, very good players at England this season. I just don't. He's coming off the. I guess Gareth Southgate putting Luke Shaw in contradicts what I'm saying here, but he's coming off the back of a bit of an injury as well. You could probably say. But that obviously contradicts that. But if there's a 7-man cut, I'm guessing that's Luke Shaw is going to be in that 7-man cut.
Yeah, that's the thing with that 7-man cut. That 7-man cut, I'm looking at the squad now. There's no other. Unless I'm wrong, I can't see it properly, but I can't see another left back in the squad.
No, there isn't.
I'm looking at myself. So
now, am I stupid here, or is Alfie Doughty a Englishman? He is, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
So he wasn't looked at. There's also Tyrick Mitchell. He's English, isn't he? They weren't even looked at. So why aren't they in the squad as a backup for Luke Shaw? Why is the likes of Jarell Quansah and Joe Gomez, who I don't particularly think has been great this year.
Quansah has been hit and miss, if you ask me.
Why is Curtis Jones in the squad? Why is Grealish in the squad? Jack Grealish has started, I think, 10 Premier League games all season.
Yeah, 10, yeah.
Had 1 goal contribution since December. He's been worse than Rashford. And people's argument is, well, he was in a title-winning team. All right, well, so was Scott Carson. Should we bring him to take him to the Euro?
I can see the point. Like, I suppose going on the point of Rashford, I'm looking down at this squad right now, and I can see Phil Foden and Anthony Gordon. Okay, fair enough. You look at left wing position. There's 2 left wingers, 2 players that have been better than Rashford this season. I'm not going to argue against that, but you can dissect this whole England squad. You're not even talking about Rashford anymore. You can dissect this whole England squad, and you can say, where's this person? Where's this person? I suppose at the end of the day, for all of Southgate's negatives, he's not going to get everything right. But I'm sorry, I'm looking at it here. Fair enough, you make the point there, Callum. Curtis Jones is in midfield, but he also has Trent Alexander-Arnold down as a midfielder.
Yeah, I know. It's bizarre. Yeah. I think he made one decent performance against Malta. Like, this is what I mean. And I mean, as a United fan, I think English United fans have got a very controversial relationship with the England team anyway, and the England and England in general, just after what happened in '98 with how David Beckham was treated.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's quite hard to really get behind them sometimes, especially when you've got a manager as well who England, I think, maybe this is an ignorance, but I think England should have won the Euros, and I think they certainly should have done a damn sight better than they did against France. I think relying on 2 penalties was a major problem. And I think if you had an Eddie Howe or a Graham Potter in charge of that team, I think we'd be winning things.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I just don't understand. I think in the Euros final the other year, we had Luke Shaw scoring the second minute of the game. I don't think we had another shot on target since from after that. It's it's boring and negative. I still truly believe, and I understand that Rashford has not had a good season, and I think he himself will admit that. But I think Rashford has shown how good he is, and I think sometimes you can rely on a moment, especially in knockout football, international football. Rely on a moment, and I think Rashford can give you that a damn sight a lot more than the likes of probably Grealish, and as good as he's been, Anthony Gordon. I think it's a mistake that he's not taking Rashford, and as a United fan, it's probably a good thing because it means he gets the entire summer off. But it's also now about how Rashford reacts. He's now missing from a tournament, which is quite a sizable thing. It's now about how he reacts now. Does he go, right, well, I'm going to win my place back and I'm going to go try and win things with United? Or does he go, do you know what? And sort of go into himself even more. Rashford's concerned with this year, and I think there's something really deep going on, and I really hope he finds his form again, because people slate United fans and say, God, you give him so much leeway, he's an academy graduate. You're damn right we do, because he's from Manchester. There was a couple of years ago where he literally fed half of England's children because of the poverty-stricken people, the poverty-stricken Tory policies, and he was able to change that. The man is genuinely a saint in Manchester, and the fact that he gets the abuse he does is utterly disgraceful. And I will always back him. And I'll tell you what, I will criticise his football, but the fact that some people go as far as they do is genuinely disgusting, and they cannot call themselves United fans when they go to the lengths that they do. But would you say it was harsh he hasn't gone? Because I know you've said, Kev, that there's been players better than him. Dara, Jonathan, do you agree with Kev, or do you think he should have gone?
You could make an argument, I think, either way. I see your point that there's legitimate argument for him being in there, because I think when I do look at the squad, he's different to any of the other players that are in that squad in the forward positions, 100%. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Jack Grealish is a tidy footballer, and he does bring a winning mentality to the squad. He's been in that team 3 years. He's won 3 league titles. You can't take away from that winning mentality. But if you're in a European Championship quarter final and you're losing by a goal with 15, 20 minutes to go, you're not bringing on Jack Grealish to get your equaliser to create something. You're bringing on Marcus Rashford, because it's like we touched on a moment ago when we're looking at the FA Cup final on Saturday. You're looking for players who are going to impact the game, impact subs, bring something different. And Rashford is that sort of player. So I definitely would have had him in there ahead of Grealish. I see the argument for Anthony Gordon. He has had a very good season, and he has electric pace. I think he brings something different to anyone else in that England squad. But then again, you're looking at that tournament experience, and the experience that Rashford brings, 400 and odd Manchester United appearances, regardless of their downfall. It's still one of the biggest football clubs in the world, and that sort of experience can't be substituted by one good season at Newcastle. And then you've got the whole tournament experience. I don't know how many exactly, because it must be 3 or 4 tournaments Marcus Rashford has been to at this point already. So there's arguments to be made either way. I don't think Southgate could have won, really. I think if he had had Marcus Rashford in that squad, he would have got slated because of the form he's had this year United. Similarly, now he's getting slated by some fans for Marcus Rashford not being in there. So I think it was a tough situation for Southgate. I'm not his biggest fan. I think he's holding that England squad back, but he was kind of betwixt and between in that situation there, to be fair to him. But looking at that squad now in more depth, even Ivan Toney up front, I know he's a completely different player to Rashford, but if I'm picking between Ivan Toney and Marcus Rashford to bring to a major tournament, I'd be bringing Marcus Rashford. Ivan Toney doesn't do enough for me. I'm shocked by this linkage to Toney from United and Arsenal and quotes of 80 to 100 million quid. Absolutely not. He's a bang average player, in my opinion.
That's another one, though. Why is he taking Toney and not Solanke?
Yeah,
it just blows my mind. You also do realise, as well, as we sit here and talk about this, you do realise Grealish is going to come on in the 89th minute and score one of the games.
But I suppose to take on to Johnson's point though, like if Southgate went away and still picked Rashford, you can guarantee the media would have got on Southgate's back saying, "Oh look, he's picking another one of his favourites because he's done it again."
I don't think Rashford's ever been one of Southgate's favourites, though. I mean, he was one of the best players in the World Cup and scored 3 goals in about 70 minutes of games. And then the quarter-final came, and I think he still picked Sterling, who had to fly home 2 days earlier to attend a personal family matter. Like it was such a stupid decision to just not play Rashford in that game. This is what I don't think he's ever been one of his favourites. I actually think Southgate has famously probably treated Rashford wrongly since he's been manager.
No, that's fair. I suppose.
I don't think you can definitely say he's one of his favourites.
Then again, where the Irish is looking in, so of course, not everything is going to be well known. But I suppose, like,
I know I shouted at you then, didn't I? Like, shut up, Dara.
yeah, shut up, Dara. But no, like honestly, I'm looking at this team and it's mind-boggling, and it's more the point of any other team. Like, I can. It's a hard one to dissect, really, because you just know any other manager would take the exact same squad and actually do something with it. But you know it's Southgate, and even as the Irish fella looking in, you know it's going to be a disaster for Southgate, which, yeah, fair enough. The 3 Irish lads will sit here with smiles on our faces to give it the Southgate disaster class. But in actual fact, take away our nationalities aside, I know about the 2 lads down below me, I would say hand on heart, any other manager but Southgate, this team, with any of the possible English players that could have been picked for the squad, you're winning Euros. You probably should have won the World Cup last year with the squad you had because, yeah, fair enough, Southgate was on the sidelines, but for the most part, let's say, you didn't have the hardest of groups, we'll say, but you still had to make your work of it. That France game was there for the taking because France were not at their best in that game. You should have won that game, and if you went on to beat France, you would have won the World Cup. In my personal opinion, you would have gone, whether you were playing Argentina or Netherlands, I don't know. But you personally, in my opinion, should have gone on to win that. Like, if you look at that entire upcoming of England players that aren't even in the squad, you take a look at half those players. Like, fair enough, Copy Mania was made the squad, but there's a million other English lads who are going to be just as good as Copy Mania and Bellingham at the prime age that they are. They're still going to have another 3 or 4 major tournaments under their belt after the Euros. If ye do not win a single trophy between Euros or World Cup between now and the time this new golden generation come through and go, it is an absolute disaster. And you want to talk about the golden generation of 2006 in that World Cup squad. If you don't do anything with this squad, there's something massively wrong.
Yeah, I do know what I always think back to that sort of so-called golden generation, and a lot of people give them criticism, and I think they themselves probably do. But when I think back to that generation, all the other teams had incredible players as well. Like Portugal had Figo and Ronaldo, and Brazil had Ronaldo and Rivaldo and Ronaldinho. Like, so I do sometimes wonder, like, our golden generation was good, but it probably wasn't better than Italy's and France's and Brazil's and Portugal. It just wasn't, was it? So I do.
You know, you were knocked out by teams that you probably should have. You were knocked out by teams that you probably should have lost it. Like, tops of a coin. You know, it wasn't as if you were knocked.
I think,
and a lot on penalties. And England have been bad on penalties now. I think everyone will have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a weird one, isn't it? But you know, I do hope Rashford uses this as motivation, and I think he will do, I imagine, because he's obviously got the character and he's shown that he can come back before. But we are going to wrap up there, guys. So, guys, thanks very much for joining us, and thank you very much for watching the return of the United Road. It's been a few weeks, but I'll be honest, I really haven't wanted to talk about Man United, so I've just not done the podcast because I couldn't be bothered. Until you lot view this a lot more and pay me for it, then I've got to do other things. So, Dara, where can people find you?
On my socials, I am at Dara Cash on which one am I on? At Dara Cash on Twitter, Dara Cash 1 on Instagram, and if you're on TikTok, Dara_Cash.
Jonathan.
Just on Twitter at Snooker America. Don't ask where I got the Twitter handle from. It's a long story.
What I've always wondered, and I've just never asked. And to be fair, I've always feared the answer, so I've always. Kevin, where can people find you, mate?
Yeah, they can find me on Twitter as well, but I barely ever use it. And I forget my handle. So
yeah, no worries.
That's all I'll say.
I know you mentioned on the tweet, guys. Thanks a lot for coming. Obviously, you know where to find me at _Callum Stone. Look at the old articles I wrote on the United Road. It's been a few months since I've wrote one. The last one was about Old Trafford. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Obviously, a lot more has sort of developed over the last few months regarding the stadium and whether it be redeveloped or a new one will be built. So it'd be good to get people's thoughts. And obviously, I'm on Twitter. You know exactly what I talk about on there, and you know exactly who does my head in as well. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and we will probably see you next week, maybe to speak about the game, but I think there's going to be quite a few stories coming out as the season ends. I'm sure there'll be transfer rumours. I know there's reviews, previews. What else is talk of the league? I think it's tomorrow, Dara. You might know when it is.
I don't actually this time.
Do you, Jonathan? I think it's
it's tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, 9 o'clock.
Tomorrow night, yeah. So talk of the league is also coming as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And the United Row will be back. I know we've got a couple of interviews coming up over the summer that I'm really excited about as well. So make sure you stay tuned, and we will see you very soon. Cheers for watching.